afternoon, everyone. Like, from risk to return, what a cliche topic, isn't it? But isn't it also real as cybersecurity leaders? If we can't get money, how are we going to do security? And if we can't prove return on investment, then how are we going to get more? So first of all, raise your hands if you've ever been asked this question: are we secure? Great, aren't you lucky? And if you haven't been asked, your time is coming. Right, so just a bit about myself and why I'm here today. So my background is in data science and data analytics, and I spent the last 10 years answering the questions of return on investment using analytics. And particularly for manufacturing companies in Europe and with a complicated supply chain in Asia. So today, I wanted to bring to life this topic about the measuring return on investment using 2 case studies. One from the UK government, and then the other, which is started in 2017, so a bit earlier. And then the other one is from a manufacturing company, Schneider Electric Energy Management. So that one is a bit newer in 2021. And I can't help but put in a picture of the stadium. This is the Tottenham Spurs Stadium. Not because it's spectacular, but because the energy consumption of the whole stadium is managed by sensors and data. And so to protect the data is paramount, but it's not a topic for today. The topic for today is how do we use trusted data to measure the return on investment. So we assume those data are secure. That's our starting point. Dive right in. The steps to take an organization from 0 to hero in terms of analytics for ROI is just very simple, 3 steps. The number 1 is defining your assets, which is your current state where we are, and the to be. The second step is about your visibility, your scope. And the third is about data. It all sounds simple. And I'll bring it to life with 2 use cases, compare and contrast in the slide left and right. And at the very end, I would have a starter of 10 data sources where you can go and start on this journey if this is what you are looking for. So the number 1 is defining the assets and to be. Just a bit of a framework. Almost every organization can categorize their data maturity journey into 3 stages. Okay? So it's either when you are starting up to build a cybersecurity, you are looking really to secure your applications, your systems, so you have a perimeter. That's a perimeter-centric. Then as you get more mature, you are looking at a scale up, and this is where when you move to data-centric. Now, then your data is really moving out of your perimeter, or more in manufacturing, you are moving with your field engineer. So that perimeter is fluid, and so we move into the data-centric. And at the very end, where you are much more grown up, is where we use the data to predict where things would happen. So roughly, this is the 3 stages of the security journey. And as cybersecurity leaders, you really have to define where are we now and where are we heading to. Not every organization needs to go to the very end. Is a key point. So there are 2 examples where we've done that in terms of defining where the to be. On the left is more operational approach and more based on the use cases. And on the right is a more enterprise version. So we go through the left. So that is a use case and very operation approach where it comes from the organization's objectives. And we filter it down to, let's say, 3 security objectives. One is protect our customer data, whatever, how many million records you've got. Then it's about the payment service that we cared about. And then it's also with the 2 of them, the extended value add is a fraud piece that we wanted to detect in cyber. And based on those 3 objectives, we really derived a set of top 10 attack scenarios, okay? That could go from the insiders colluding with external parties to all the way down to like developers injecting malicious code. So that is one approach of doing that. Then on the right-hand side, this is a like more enterprise approach. It happens if the scope is a bit bigger, where the objective is really to use AI to drive sustainability. For that, we define the maturity journey for our cyber to go from a perimeter to data-centric, okay? And with that, we really think about what are the risks that we wanted to measure. And that is about our customers, because our devices are in these critical national infrastructure, the internal business disruption, compliance, and then our intellectual property. The key point is that no matter whether this is an 80,000 organization or 150,000 organization, the risk is distilled into a small subset of either use cases or risk registered that people can manage, can talk about. So the number 2 thing, now that we have the objectives, then it's about like defining the scope, the visibility, and the blind spots. So on the left, the slide content is not the most important. But when we're doing use cases and when you're measuring the return, it's really a heat map on the left-hand side that we can use. You can analyze each of the attack scenario using the cyber Q chain. NCSC has there's a simpler version of 4 steps versus 7, which I much prefer. But what you wanted to do is really a heat map of each attack scenario against your investment, either in people, in tech, in process change. And you really accelerate where you get the biggest bang for the buck. As simple as that. Or on the other side, where we took a more enterprise approach, that took a lot of estimation in terms of where the organization data is. So on the top left, you have the data category that every organization has: a customer, vendor, asset data, source code, so all that. In terms of a data type, you've got the structured data, all the reportings, transactional data, master data. You've got the unstructured data, which is 80% of an organization's data. And then you've also got the big data. So these data, like when you look at it in this manner, they are of different risk, different speed to process. And then on the right-hand side, then is where they are sitting, where places that we know, places we don't know. But if you don't know, I'm sure you'll find out when there's an incident. And then also all the other channels where the data can flow. The key point on this map and about establishing the visibility is so that this is a living document where non-technical people can understand, so that we can get the investment. And having a map where it's living is where we tend to get a lot more traction. And that's why I'm a big fan of visualization of data. And it is not about accuracy. It's more about where you want to go directionally. Now, then the number 3 is about getting the data. I have a starter of 10 of a tried and tested data source. So on the very top, I won't go through each of them like, one by one, but in groupings. On the top, you see the incident data, okay? what we are driving at is not the reduction of of incident. What we're driving at is a reduction of repeated incidents. And that would be already a big task if an organization has multiple incident management systems, particularly in manufacturing. You got to historically just have multiple of them. Then the next set would be like your email security. It's a scalar, it's just a technology, but it is really controlling the data flow to cloud, the USB port. Those are really the key control points between your internal boundary and external boundary. And those are tested and tried, really good places to get data, to get visibility. For example, we can say that your developers go to like a public GitHub more often than the enterprise GitHub. So that kind of data is where you can get from those boundary control. Microsoft 365 is another place where you can see petabytes of data, who's been accessing them, in what location. So that is a really good place to look at, but there's a huge volume of data in Microsoft for you to make some sense out of it. So these are more like traditional, most organizations can nail that. Where we started to find more challenging would be the OT space. You can use the data from BitSight, which is more like an application that scan for your open ports to the external. And then you also started to have the internal scanning as well. So that is to see how, one is to see how open you are to external attackers. The internal one is to see how flat you are internally. So that also gives a very good protection or visibility of your ransomware attack risk. Now then, the more where we are and in terms of emerging of the data use is on the field engineers mobile app. So a lot of the organizations start to use mobile apps to fix, to do checklists or fix issues on the ground, and chatbots, etc. Those are where we wanted to take data. But it is slower because the closer the application is to users, the higher the risk of privacy and by EU regulations or by unions. So we tend to move a bit slower on those data. Particularly if you haven't tried all the other less intrusive mechanisms, then it's difficult to convince the union why you are doing that. So that's the starter of 10. I think one last point is about the deployment model for if you're setting up a data and analytics capability for security. I've seen either they do it in a more sequential manner. So you start to nail the IT before you move to OT and IoT. But if an organization is more data literate, if it's a retail background, the like of Unilever, then you can do this in a more parallel because they will be used to already ingesting data from social media, so that kind of big data. But in manufacturing, we are less so we tend to be a bit more slower in that sense. Okay. So I think that's it for my presentation. If there's any points that want clarification, feel free. And if there's any other questions, you can also connect with me in a bit later.
Thanks very much. Any questions?